Hi guys, welcome to Skarbekstudio. My name is Sarah, and today I'm going to tell you about 5 biggest mistakes that I made as a beginner sewer. And I hope that it will help you to actually learn, progress in sewing, and avoid those mistakes because a lot of them are dumb and they can make your sewing experience very annoying. The worst part about it is that I made them when I was in fashion school. When you go to fashion school, you kind of have to know how to sew prior attending. I didn't know how to sew. I only knew how to glue my clothes together, but I knew how to draw. I knew how to do all that kind of stuff. So that got me through fashion school. If I can help one person, then that's all that matters. So let's go. First sewing mistake that I made as a beginner sewer was sewing invisible zipper wrong. I know a lot of beginners are very scared of sewing invisible zippers, but to be honest, at some point you have to actually learn how to sew invisible zipper, and it's not that hard as it seems like. My problem was not with sewing the zipper. My problem was the size of the zipper. I would always buy zipper that was too small, and I'm going to tell you in a second why. So let's say you have a dress and you have a side zipper here, right? And the zipper is 40 centimeters long, the zipper opening. So when you buy invisible zipper, that zipper should be longer than that opening, because the proper way to sew it is for the zipper bottom stop to be about 4 centimeters below your stitch, right? So you finish your stitch and you back stitch, and then you have a little bit of zipper hanging, and that's kind of how it always is. It's usually 1.5 inch or 4 centimeters if you don't know inches, or vice versa. What I did as a beginner sewer, I would buy a zipper that from the top stop to the bottom stop was exactly 40 centimeters long. And that was such a big mistake because every time I would go till the end, that zipper bottom stop would prevent me from sewing close to the seam, and it would create this opening. So the zipper bottom stop would be visible to the right side of the fabric, and that is so wrong. The worst thing about this is I made this mistake in fashion school, and I had some clothes with that bottom stop visible on a runway. It cannot get worse. Don't make this mistake. Buy zippers that are longer. Mistake number 2, not pressing your seams. You might have heard about it. This rule is very important, and I know a lot of beginners love to skip it or just be kind of sloppy with it. Just press some or wait till the whole garment is finished and then press seams. No. Pressing seams is 60% of work. One thing that is very important is equipment. So of course you need an iron, and you also need tailor's hem. It's like a little round thing. Most of your seams are curved as our body is curved. This is a curve. This is a curve. Like everything is a curve. That's why pressing your seams completely on a flat surface is not always good. That's one thing that you need. And now I'm going to tell you quickly how to press your seams the right way. So the first thing that you need to do, you need to press your seams flat to reinforce them. It is not always necessary, but most projects that I do and that I teach here, you need to do it. So that's first thing that I would recommend. Second thing that you have to do, you have to place your garment or your fabric wrong side up. Wrong side up, it's the left side, and the right side is the one that you see, right? So wrong side up, you can see your seam, and then just gently smooth your seam crosswise, right? So just smooth it gently and then press with your iron towards the direction of your grain. And after that, move your fabric to the right side, and we have to press it again on the right side. To do it, you need a cloth, like a cotton cloth, or it can be made out of muslin. So you have to place that piece of fabric over your garment and then just iron it. And the reason why a piece of fabric is placed on the surface of your garment is because it protects the garment from shiny marks, if it makes sense. So oftentimes if you press directly on the right side with your iron, it will leave like those shiny marks, and we don't want to do that. Like I said, pressing your seams is extremely important. This is actually something that can make your garment look professional. Mistake number 3 is cutting my pattern pieces on the wrong grain. This is probably, again, very self-explanatory, but just in case you don't know about it, I'm going to quickly explain what it means. So when you buy sewing patterns, you will always see arrow, and basically that arrow tells you how to place your fabric. So that arrow has to be always parallel to the selvage. All right, so if you don't know what that is, I'm going to just quickly explain it to you. And this is very important because The way you place your pattern on the fabric will determine how the garment later will lay on your body. Every fabric that you buy has lengthwise grain, and it also has crosswise or horizontal grain. So basically crosswise grain, it's the one that doesn't change. It's usually either 150 centimeters or 90 centimeters. When you buy your fabric, this one doesn't change. But let's say on 3 meters or 3 yards of fabric, the lengthwise grain will change. So that will be the 3 meters. The lengthwise, it's the selvage. So it's the one that we buy. We buy like 3, 4, 7 meters or whatever. And the crosswise stays the same. And the thing about this is lengthwise grain usually has no stretch. It's stronger, but it doesn't really have stretch. And the crosswise grain has stretch. When you have fabric, let's say woven fabric has yarns, has warp yarn that goes this way and it's straight, and you have weft yarn that goes crosswise and it goes like this. Okay, so because of that, the crosswise grain, which is the one that doesn't change, like kind of 50 centimeter or 90 centimeter, stretches a little bit, has a little bit of stretch, not much. It's not like knit stretchy by no means, but it stretches a little bit, right? Lengthwise grain doesn't really stretch because it's just like a straight yarn. It doesn't go like this, it just goes straight, right? So it's parallel to the selvage. If you want to make a shirt and you place your shirt wrong on your fabric, then what might happen is if the cross grain, which is this one, will go this way, the yarns that go like this will stretch this way, right? And you don't want it to happen when you make your shirt. You don't want it to stretch lengthwise. You want it to stretch a little bit crosswise. So that's why it is extremely important to cut your pattern pieces correct, okay? There's also a bias grain that I'm not going to talk about today. Very important again, but as a beginner, you probably don't cut on bias and you shouldn't. So that's one thing that I want to say. Let's go to mistake number 4. That mistake is probably less common, but I thought I'm going to mention it in case you didn't know. So I'm going to talk about wrong stitches for your fabric. So knits. Let's say I just talked about woven fabric and now I'm going to talk about knits. So knitted fabric is created by forming rows of loops. There is another row below it and again. So that fabric is very stretchy, completely different, right? So if this fabric is so stretchy, you definitely need a stretchy stitch. Straight stitch will not do. You need a zigzag stitch, or you need another stretchy stitch. It can be overlock stitch. You can also use twin needle stitch, or you can just use your overlock machine. That is amazing. Honestly, if I could only sew with overlock machine, I would definitely do it. It's very easy. A lot of beginners are actually scared of it, but I think it's even easier than the other one. So that's just one thing that I want to let you know. All right, I have one more big mistake that I made as a beginner sewer. Mistake number 5, which is blaming the sewing pattern for everything. Okay, this sounds a little bit dramatic, but I thought I'm going to mention it because, you know, that might save you some trouble, some headaches, and you will know how to navigate it. So let's talk about sewing patterns real quickly. I'm a pattern maker, so I can talk about it a lot. But when I was learning how to sew, at the time actually I studied fashion design. I didn't study pattern making. I was trying to learn how to sew, and I would buy some sewing patterns from very old established brands that are generally known for very good sewing patterns. And none of the patterns would ever fit me. They would always be too big, too long. They just would not fit me, not fit my body type. And I was like, you know what? Those patterns are bad. They're just badly made. And I remember I bought this book in the States, a very popular sewing book. I think a lot of people buy it here. It's not a bad book, but it has a bunch of sewing patterns, and those patterns were so bad. They didn't fit me at all. But the thing is, the pattern in itself was not bad. It was just made for a different body type. And again, the sewing pattern is kind of like a guide. So sometimes you can buy size small, and that size might be, let's say, too small in the bust for you, or too big in your waist. The reason for it is because the pattern is made for a different body type. You have to know how to adjust it. Oftentimes, especially bust, waist, and hips, those are the areas that you usually have to adjust. Sometimes maybe shoulder length or something. So that's why As a beginner sewer, I would encourage you to buy sewing patterns that are not really fitted to your body. Buy patterns that are a bit bigger, like boxier silhouettes, right? So like a big boxy dress or like a skirt with elastic or something like that, because those things will most likely fit you okay. More fitted things will, yeah, they might be way harder for you because you will have to adjust them. And I'm saying it as a pattern maker. Every time I release a new pattern, I sweat. I'm so nervous because I know sometimes people can leave a 1-star review because it doesn't fit them. But that's kind of how it is. It will not fit everybody. Obviously, you have to check the measurements because size small for me might be different. That size small for another pattern maker. My patterns tend to have smaller waist to hip ratio. A lot of clothes that you buy at stores, like fast fashion stores, they are made a little differently. A lot of them have a little bit straighter silhouette, and the reason for it is because it can fit more people. My standard model or standard measurements are a little different. It's because, I don't really love buying at fast fashion stores because none of the clothes ever fit me well. A good tip for sewers out there is look at the model that is modeling the clothes. Those clothes are probably made for that model. If it's a small business like my business or a lot of other Etsy sellers, they usually model their own clothes. If it's a bigger brand, they usually have more standard stuff. So, it obviously depends. But yeah, those were the biggest 5 mistakes that I made as a beginner sewer. The zipper one was huge, and I'm convinced that I might be the only person who has ever made this mistake. So again, is it embarrassing? Yes, but you know what? I learned and I'm a pro zipper sewer right now. And that's what matters. And I'll see you in the next video. Like, subscribe, follow me on TikTok, Instagram. You can also buy my sewing patterns on skarbekstudio on Etsy. I'll see you guys next time. Let me know what are some mistakes that you made or maybe things that you struggle with when it comes to sewing. I can help. I can record a quick video just for you. Potentially. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.